Hey, what's up, guys? I'm David DiMuzio, and today I am very excited to be interviewing Morissette's producer of the new signature EP, which I've been reacting to and loving, Xergio Ramos. So, Sergio, thanks so much for doing all these interviews with me. If you like his production, we've got a couple others that are about more his production techniques. But I wanted to know, Sergio, going through each song on Signature, what is your favorite moment in every song?
Favorite moment in every song. All right. Well, let's start with the very first one, which is Love You Still. My favorite moment in that song definitely has to be there's a unison line. How do you breathe so lightly? That part. I think it's during the second verse. And the reason why that's my favorite is because it was actually Morissette and Dave shopping around for different producers, and that moment was in my demo, and that was the moment where they were like, this is our guy. So there's a certain part of me that has a special place in my heart for that song and that particular part. And I got the idea for that one from a song by an artist called Neo. It was a song called Bad Blood, so check that out and you'll kind of get what I was going for.
So I have a question about that, because my favorite moment in Love You Still, I wonder if it's the same part. It's like, it's in the second verse also, and there's like this one line where there's this kind of like low octave synth kind of thing. It almost sounds like Skrillex or something like that. Is that the same part?
That, in fact, is the same part.
That is the same part, dude. That's my favorite part in the song. I was going through it, I'm like, I love that. Like, that sounds so cool. Wow.
The amount of layers that are on that one, because I had to unpack that one very, very recently. Yeah, there's a lot of layers that, and I like going out of my way to make interesting sounds and make things that shouldn't fit. So that's
Wow.
something that I particularly like doing.
Dude, that's crazy that we have the same favorite moment in that song. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out what it was, because I was like, it's not like Little Altar Boy. Like, it's something I haven't heard before.
Do you want me to tell you like everything that's going on there?
Sure. Yeah. Why
All
not?
right, cool. So,
yes.
Of course, we have, Morissette screaming her head off during that part, the how do you breathe so lightly? And then, as with the rest of the song, there's an octave down of that one, typical pop music technique.
I heard that in other parts, where it sounds different. It sounds more like a Little Altar Boy type thing.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, there's the guitar playing that distorted guitar. There's an octave down of that guitar that I played. I didn't just pitch it down. And because, part of me is a metalhead, there's an 8-string playing the lowest octave that it can on there. There's on my Line 6 Helix, there's a bunch of like guitar synth effects, and I found one which just kind of fit. And other than that, I think there might be like a keyboard like lead synth or some Moog type thing that I added on there, and all of those created whatever you heard that's on that track. So yeah, a lot of random ass layers. All right, so let's see, Love You Still. So the second one, according to the signature EP, I didn't choose the order in which the EP happened. I just have my own like memory of the order in which I produced them. So according to this one, it's Trophy. So favorite moment in Trophy, I kind of have two moments. My favorite moment for that one is definitely the bridge, because when I first heard the demo of that one, I immediately heard it as like a roots reggae song. And I wanted to steer as much of that song into like roots reggae things, roots reggae elements. And once it got to the bridge, that one was like, no, this is the roots reggae part right here. Yeah. So there's that one. And then her vocal performance too on that song, which I know is going to be in a next question. Her vocal performance in that song, well, a moment which doesn't appear on the song, but is entirely just on me, was I had a heart attack when I opened the Google Drive folder and I saw how many vocal tracks there were. So there was that one, but listening, it was good. It was chef's kiss for sure. Especially the ad libs towards the end. Will You Stay? Purely because the only one that's on the EP, I think, is the guitar solo, just because. Guitar solo. Mirror. Okay, so for Mirror, I think my favorite, instead of favorite part, I'll say it's my favorite element, was when I had that initial aha moment of, okay, so this is the sound that I was kind of going for. And what I was going for was kind of like that, almost like toy box, creepy, you know, the ballerina thing as a song. And the patch that I used was this Omnisphere patch that a lot of trap music people use. Ariana Grande even used it on, I think, Seven Rings. And Polyphia used it on Goat. It's that initial keyboard patch in the verses.
Now that you say that, I totally remember hearing that on Goat. And Goat's like one of my favorite progressive rock songs that come out in years. Love that song.
So for sure, it's that exact same keyboard patch. Okay, for Phoenix, it was definitely being able to overdub the piano. There's one moment in there that the piano player who we got didn't do, and I had it on the demo because I was the one that, I'm not the best piano player in the world, but I did something that was passable. It's like during the bridge where it's just her, there's a hope comes with the morning, and where it's just her and the piano. There's this part where it ramps up in intensity because there's a bang like on the bass side of the piano. I think that one is also one of my favorite moments because I got the idea for that one from this Jacob Collier YouTube video of him playing Don't Stop Till You Get Enough on the piano. I just thought it was such a cool thing that I wanted it to signal like a change in feel, because what I told the piano player and how I wanted that part was the first part would be, you know, your typical like ballad pretty stuff. Bang, go into a bit more like R&B gospel stuff, and that's why you also hear the organ leading up into the rest of the song. So yeah, definitely that part.
Wow, that's some really interesting influences. Yeah, you pulled from. You'd never think like Jacob Collier and Polyphia as influences of the Morissette album. I love that. I feel like the production to me is like a big part of like the star of like this album for me. Like every time I listen to it, I'm hearing new things. And it's funny you're pointing out things like Trophy. That was my favorite moment, and Trophy was like where those reggae drums come in. I think that's what you're kind of talking about, right? Is where that was like the, you know, the reggae. I loved that moment. I was like, ooh, it's got this real reggae vibe now. I think same thing with the end. The end of Trophy is one of my favorite vocal moments on the album. I'm pretty sure it's Trophy. It's where she goes to this whistle tone, but it's like a belt. Is that right?
I believe so.
It's like she goes up like the octave there, and it's like so high that it almost sounds like a whistle tone, but it's so powerful that it like kind of doesn't sound like a whistle tone, and it's pretty epic.
Yeah, could be. Oh, another one for Trophy that not many people hear because I had to turn it down in the mix is the way how I programmed the horns. There's some really awesome horn parts, especially in the very, very like last chorus where she's doing her, you know, vocal, her Morissette vocal thing, you know, her artists. But yeah, so instead of the horns playing like following the background vocals, I programmed it where it had more of a just I love that like trill thing.
More like a staccato.
Yeah, it was a bit
thing.
more staccato, kind of marching band-ish. And weird influence where I got that idea from. There's a song at the very end of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's the celebration song when they're in Naboo, where the horns kind of go, and I just love the sound of that. So yeah, Star Wars made it onto the Morissette EP somehow.
Yeah, I like those horn parts a lot too. One of my other favorite moments is it Mirror, the end with the whistle tone, like the crazy whistle tone moment. Whoop! It does like that kind of thing.
That one's Trophy. That's the very end of Trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that moment. It's one of my favorite moments on the whole album. It's funny, I was just listening to Trophy with some friends in the car earlier today. And I've listened to it a bunch of times, but it was their first time hearing it. And when that little moment happened, literally everybody who was in the car was like, "Ooh, that was really cool." So with Will You Stay, I was hearing kind of like a D'Angelo Untitled influence. Was that an influence on that song?
Yes, actually. Deep in my heart will always be, pop and R&B. And especially when I went to music school, something that was like kind of a mind blow like thing was when somebody showed me the D'Angelo Voodoo record, where I kind of got exposed to the whole drunk swing quintuplet shuffle, D'Angelo and Jay Dilla drumming, and proceeded to learn about that and play a lot of that in music school. I was like, I don't hear this around, especially here in the Philippines, enough. But I wanted to also bring a little bit of that. I was able to do that, and I mixed that song also, kind of a more typical R&B song where the bass sounds a bit more full and mumbly as opposed to a bit more nasally.
Oh, and that song, sorry, the bass kick relationship, it really has that kind of Voodoo album kind of feel.
Yes. That song challenged the hell out of me because I was also the one who was playing bass on that record. I showed it to a friend of mine and he said, "Bro, what the hell is going on with the duration of your notes? They're all over the place." And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. And thankfully, we hadn't sent it to mastering yet, so was able to tweak a couple things in the bass performance, and that is what you finally get to hear on the record.
This thing we've saved for last, we've saved it for last because hopefully you guys have all stopped watching by this point because we're going to have the big reveal. I want to know what got left on the album, like what mistakes that you kind of almost hope people don't notice. I'm sorry that I'm going to make you reveal them, but once it's out there and people love it already. But I've noticed when I produce songs, it seems like there's almost one thing on every song that I'm kind of hoping people don't notice.
All right, so Love You Still. The guitar part dun, 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 was surprisingly hard to play. I don't know if it was my timing was off or I just woken up or I drank too much coffee that day or whatever. I could not lock in on that song. And it took a couple of tries for sure for me to be like, okay, no, I think I got it. I think I got that one. Another mistake, actually that song has probably a couple other mistakes too. The part where it's just the guitar and Morissette, if you listen really intently, you can hear the gating on my guitar because there's like a little bit of hiss coming from like the pickups, and I'm like recording right here. My computer's right here. My AC's running. So of course, like it's bound to pick up something. And I always run a gate on all of my patches just ever so slightly just to get rid of that. But if you listen like loud enough, please don't listen too loud. Yeah, you can hear it go every single time I'm playing something. And the last thing is that I think in the pre-choruses or in the choruses, there's like a higher guitar part where it's playing just arpeggios. And I doubled that on the right and the left. When I looked at the session again, like this week, turns out one was off by like a 32nd note or a 16th note or something. And I just never caught it. There was so much that was happening in that song that I just, my ear just never grabbed it. So there was that one. I did mention that I like adding, things that shouldn't be in these songs into these songs. So, like, for example, I love using an 8-string guitar in places where it shouldn't be. So an 8-string guitar shows up in Love You Still. 8-string guitar shows up in the choruses of Mirror. That's how I got that like big synth sound. It's like a synth plus like a baritone sax patch from something plus an 8-string guitar plus all of these different things. Let's see. Trophy. Is there something in Trophy that was a mistake? mistake. I'm trying to think. I honestly don't think there's anything in Trophy. I think Trophy was like the most perfect in terms of like the production that I was able to do, and in terms of like time from demo to final mix, it was a month. That one was just like the smoothest sailing one. Will You Stay? I've already like touched on the whole bass parts.
I have a question about Will You Stay. Why was the mixed decision to not have the vocals drop out? And like, I was waiting for this big R&B guitar solo and have the guitar solo, because it's a guitar solo is super low in the mix for like a guitar solo moment, you know?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I remember seeing that in your reaction video. That one is kind of twofold. Number one is that me being the producer for an artist, I always have to remember it's not my record, it's hers. At the end of the day, yeah. It's her face, it's her name that is going to be on the album, right? So I kind of have to respect that as much as possible with my producing, with my mixing, and all of these different things. On that song in particular, they did want it so that the vocals were pushed back a bit, as in they were drowning in a bit more reverb. But they kind of wanted it to be like the vocal and the guitar were almost like singing to each other. That's how they described it to me. Or they were like playing off of each other. So it's less of like, this is the guitar solo, and then Morissette is just like somewhere back in the distance, like, you know, singing. It's more of like, you know, me and her are talking to each other, supposedly. That's why the mix is that way.
Will You Stay is like one of my favorite songs on the album. It's definitely top 2, I would say, for me. And that is like literally my only moment in the whole album production-wise that I don't like. that I'm like, because my ear doesn't like know which one to listen to. And it's also, I'm biased because I'm a guitar player. I'm like, oh, there's a guitar solo and it sounds really nice, but like I can't really quite hear it enough. Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway. Sorry about that, but yeah, I also wanted to make that decision, and out of respect for, you know, it's her album. So and you know, I also understand my bias because I am a guitar player as well, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I better counteract that somehow. Maybe I went too far in one direction. Oh, another thing too in Trophy, if you were to listen to any of the any like currently like on YouTube or live performance of Trophy, the organ is missing on half of the song. The reason why is because file corruption issues. Everybody back up your data. Oh, wow. So that's why. So if you were to like listen to
like the live in her house,
yeah, that one in particular, probably. If you like listen intently, the organ is missing like on the second half of the song. So oops.
We don't need you, organ.
Yeah. No, but that's my favorite part, though. Let's say, so that's Will You Stay Trophy. Oh, that's another thing, too. I forgot about that. So for Love You Still, there were things that I did that were on the demo that for some reason, when they sent me the real vocal recordings, I just could not replicate it, no matter what I did. Like the reverse reverb that you hear, I still love you, that's the iPhone demo recording that has the reverse reverb on it, because I could not replicate it when I was doing it in the final mix. So I was like, well, I already have it, it sounds perfectly fine, might as well throw it in there. Phoenix has probably my favorite me Easter egg, which is that I did some beatboxing and vocal stuff that's acts as percussion elements. So I used I remember I would just go, you know, did my best Michael Jackson impression, and then I chucked it into Ableton. I put on, it was either Excellent Audio RC20 Color, which is like a tape plugin that a lot of lo-fi people love using. It was that one, and Shaper Guy's Halftime, which is another, secret ingredient that a lot of people use nowadays. I used that one, and then I also just went with my hands and turned up the volume really loud. So that's pretty much all the secret stuff that's on there.
He's great, Simon Servita. That Mapa song is stellar. It's one of my favorite Filipino songs I've heard in years. It was instantly Wow, no wonder this is blowing up so big. This song is incredible.
Yeah, and he's kind of similar to me where like he's based in the US. I was based in the US, and a lot of my tastes are kind of based in like Western music as opposed to Filipino music. So if you listen to our production styles, it is very, very much like, you know, influenced by that. He understands like what trap music sounds like. I've had to scale back on the trap music elements on the Morissette record for sure. There were a lot more trappy elements, is all I'm gonna say, on some of the earlier demos for every single song, and they told me, scale it back a little bit. So
Xergio, thank you so much for coming on my channel and sharing some of your secrets. This has been a really fun album to listen to. I think it's one of the best produced albums to ever come out of the Philippines. So congratulations on all of it.